I am here at the Nikon booth with Steve to talk about their mirrorless lineup. So tell us about the Z6 and Z7.
We are stoked to be able to show this for the first time for this audience. We've been at NAB in years past. People go, why are you guys here? You know, other than your Nikkor lenses. So late last year we developed our Z system. We introduced two brand new full frame mirrorless cameras, the Z6 and the Z7. So we're showing those off here today. More really the Z6 for this sort of filmmaking video audience. The Z6 at 24 megapixels makes a better 4K image than, ironically, our 45 megapixel Z7 does. But they each have their own strengths in and of themselves, but the bodies are identical other than the sensor basically. Both cameras of course are really nice and small. We took our F mount and redesigned the Z mount to have a much wider diameter at 55 millimeters. And of course when you have a camera like this with no mirror in it, when you take out that mirror box, you can get the lens right back up against the sensor. So we've got a very short flange distance of only 16 millimeter, which allows our optical engineers to make some pretty outrageous lenses. Like for instance, the 58 millimeter Nikkor with an f-stop of 0.95, fastest lens we've ever made. And that wouldn't have been possible on the F-mount before. So lenses are a real big deal, and especially for the video audience also. All of our Z Nikkor lenses have been designed to minimize breathing, so especially the primes, when you focus from near to far, your image size won't change, which is important in video, not as important in still photography, but that's a big deal. So we've got a line of lenses that we've already pre-announced. We've actually released some, including the kit lens, the 2470, a 35-1.8, 50-1.8, the 58 Nikkor 095, and then we introduced recently a 14-30, which we won Best Product of the Show last night, along with the Z6, so we're really happy about that, of course. Both cameras will shoot 4K. They will both shoot to the width of the full-frame sensor, but like I say, the Z6, because it has lower resolution, is better for video simply because it's a full pixel readout for 4K, both in FX format and DX format. We've got intervalometry tools in here, so you can do built-in time-lapse in the camera. You can actually process a time-lapse so you don't have to do it in post in the camera at up to 4K. And then the Z7, if you want to shoot, that's why we're showing 8K time-lapses on this 8K monitor here. You can produce some pretty amazing, huge time-lapses with that. Both cameras have in-body stabilization, which is really great because if you want to convert back to F-mount lenses, you can use this FTZ adapter, which will replace that space that went away when we took out the mirror box in the SLR. But the bodies now have in-body stabilization. So even Nikkor F lenses that don't have vibration reduction image stabilization can now take advantage of it by attaching it to the Zs. So all of your older Nikkor lenses get better on the Z system, and there's no loss of quality, no loss of light. So it's a great way to keep the legacy of all of your old Nikkor lenses intact. Now the basic pricing on these, for instance, is the Z6 with its kit lens 24-70 f4 is about $2,600, $2,000 for the body by itself. It's a great value. Z7 is just under $4,000 or about $4,000 with the same kit lens. So there is a bit of a price difference between the two. So it's an advantage for people in this market to look at the Z6 for sure. Other things. Oh, we've got some really cool stuff coming. The neat thing about this new Z line of cameras is that we can update them. We can keep progressing by adding features throughout its existence, which is really cool because we've already announced 3 firmware upgrades that are coming very soon. The first will be IAF for still photography. I'm not sure whether it'll make it to video or not, but IAF for still photographers will be coming in May by firmware update. Then later this year, we haven't announced a date, we're going to actually have a firmware update that will allow these cameras to use not only the XQD memory cards that they're built upon, but also the new coming CF Express cards, which are considerably faster. Wow. Yeah, so both those cards will be usable in these cameras after that firmware update. And the last one, which is a huge deal here at NAB, is that we've teamed together with Atomos to create an output from both Z6 and Z7 that will offer 12-bit ProRes RAW support for the first time in any HDMI camera. So we're really excited about that for sure. Now the camera by itself will do 10-bit N-Log, or it'll shoot 8-bit files both in 4K and in 1080, but having 12-bit RAW, I mean, I know your audience will really appreciate that.
Man, one thing I definitely want to say is I personally appreciate the fact that you guys, when you got into the mirrorless lineup, you weren't shy about giving us output. Some other companies, they're limiting what you can get through the HDMI port from the camera. Even though the sensor capture is great, you guys are like, we're gonna give you everything we can from day one, and if we can't, we're gonna give you more in the future. I was happy with 10-bit, but to hear 12-bit, that's mind-blowing.
That's even better, Well, like I say, we've been sort of studying this market for a long time. Our DSLR cameras have shot HD video and 4K for a while now. The only issue is, DSLRs, there's a lot of compromises in using them for video. So a mirrorless system is the perfect platform for that sort of thing. So we sort of listened to everything everybody said about making a better camera, and that is exactly what we've done in the Z line for sure.
Perfect. Any other accessories, grips, or anything else that's great for the lineup?
We do have a battery grip that we've announced that's coming, and we've also got a batch of lens mock-ups over here of the lenses that we've already announced will be on our roadmap for the next 2 years. So there's a lot of lenses coming, but of course with this FTZ adapter we can mount all 90 plus current Nikkor F-mount lenses and over 360 different types of Nikkor lenses that go back multiple decades. So anybody in this industry who's looking for old uncoated lenses for a particular look will be very happy to see that those lenses can be mounted on these cameras very easily.
Perfect. Let's talk about pricing and availability one more time, just making sure we got everything covered.
All of these are available right now in the market, either as a single body purchase or as a kit purchase. The Z6 is about $2,600 with the 24 to 70, or $2,000 for the body alone, and the Z7 is going to be just under $4,000 with the same kit lens, or I think $3,300 for the body by itself.
All right, I want to thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned for future firmware updates, and these cameras are available now. I'll see you guys next video. Listen guys, I've never owned a Nikon. However, I've used a Nikon for a couple years learning photography in the military. And at the time, I was brainwashed with Canon. I'm gonna go get a Canon. As soon as I put this down, I'm gonna go get a Canon. And I never really gave Nikon a fair shake until after I decided to leave Canon. And I felt like there's better things than Canon out here. Wake up. And I'm end up going to Sony. However, these guys at Nikon get it. They understand the revolution that is in full bloom when it comes to the video portion of your mirrorless camera. They get it. Camcorders are dying thanks to cell phones. And I'm not saying there's not money to be made in the camcorder market. However, your mirrorless camera can eat up that market if you do two things: remove the time limit and have good lenses and a good sensor. But we'll talk about that later. As of now, they know that they're filmmaking. They get a chance to jump into the filmmakers market, and they don't have 50 cameras above it to eat up or to be worried about jumping into and outselling like Canon. Canon's still trying to sell C200s. They're still trying to sell C100s. They're still trying to sell 5D Mark IVs. Nikon is saying, hey, we've made a camera ready for you video guys. We want to get some of that money because we haven't been getting it. They got filmmakers kits. They have great output. They're going to put a 12-bit output this summer. That's crazy. Canon's not giving you 8-bit output. So it's funny because this is a market that Canon created and they're not feeding that market. And Nikon and Sony has stepped up and said, hey, okay, we'll do it. Sony started it off. I guess you can say continued it from Canon. And now Nikon, who was really behind the curve when it came to video, is like, hey, I got it. Let's go. Let's eat. You got Canon, you got 10 cameras you worried about making sure you don't outstep when it comes to video. I'm going to give the people what they want, and I'm going to convert them to Nikon users. And we have a ton of glass, new and old, and we're going to bring your customers over, and we're going to give them the video they want, as well as give them the camera that they need to take great still photos and great video. This is nuts. I wish I would have talked to Nikon before I talked to Canon, because I would have had way more questions for Canon. But the Nikon guys, they get it. Nikon, thumbs up to you. I love what you're doing. Continue to do it. And it's going to make this mirrorless thing pretty interesting. It's going to be pretty interesting. So that's my rant for that. I'll see you guys in the next video.